Hey everybody, I wanted to go over math for younger learners. I want to say necessarily that this is math for beginners, but it is how we use games to help kids understand some of the beginning math concepts. And so I just set out some traditional math games and some you may not have thought about or heard of before. And I'm just going to go over them and say why and how we use them and why you might want to use them yourself. So let's start with number recognition for actual counting. Dominoes, any form of dominoes, is a great way to help kids actually count numbers 1, 2, 6 and see how they match up. This particular set was a gift to us and it has a mini color, so even if the kids can recognize the color, but you are matching numbers, you're visually looking at numbers, and this one goes a little higher than the average. So if I was to play this, I would have the kids also say how much this is when they match it down. So they might say, I'm matching a 1, or I'm matching a, oh goodness, my brain this morning, matching an 11, and put those down, 6s, 2s, that kind of thing. So basic dominoes is great. Just playing with the tiles are great. Putting them in numerical order. Can you find all the 5 5s? Can you find all, what about 5 3, 5 2? Putting them next to each other so they can see the number line. I guess we'll go this direction. There you go. Yeah, so lots of fun ways to play with dominoes. Plus you can build with them, which is logic and balance and all of those things, which also very much count for math. Another thing you can use for number recognition is Uno, because in this game you're going to recognize what the actual numbers are. Many young kids can play Uno because it's matching, color and number to the board. Again, we would use this first. One of the things about math that is a little difficult when you're going into teaching is that kids can do math a lot more in their head and in a tangible three-dimensional form than they can necessarily writing 1 + 1 = 2 on a paper. And so we would use the games to help them understand the concept in their brains, in their practical hands-on life. And then we would introduce how to write it down in our curriculum that we used, which was Math UC. All right, Yahtzee, another classic, though I pulled it out and one of my kids was like, I don't think we've ever played this. Anyway, it's 5 dice rolling if you have a child that likes to roll. And again, if you don't own these basic games, you probably have someone who does. Borrow it. See if your kids like it. Don't go spend $1 million on them. Pick them up. They're not my go-to favorites, but they are basic, good, solid math practice type games. This is a little more complicated because you are doing some higher. Maybe this is more like a second, third grader, but they can do the adding. They can add your score, their score, sibling score, all of that good practice. Let's go into my favorite math game for any age, fraction formula. And this one is great for helping you learn how fractions actually work in 3D form, right? Okay, so this one here, these are all 1/3, and if you put all 3 1/3 in this beaker, you will get a whole, right? And in this case, we've got some, it'll actually say on the side what the number is. Sorry, there's my camera again. So for example, this one is 1/6, and this one is 1/10. So 10 of these will fill one of these beakers. But the way you play the game, simple for anyone who may or may not even read yet. Flip the card over. You're just matching numbers 1/8. So I would need to find a 1/8, which I happen to have. And then on my turn, I would simply add it to my beaker. Now my goal is to not go above the, it's really hard to see on the camera, but the fill line. So it's a push your luck. This person, of course, got 100%. That's very hard to do in this game. Usually you're like, okay, I think I can fill it a little more, because at the end of the game, the person who's filled more wins. And I flipped it over. It's 1/12, which actually they're all matched by color too. So I don't have any 1/12s, but if I had a 1/12, I would get to put that on the top. And so your child that can recognize color matching, your child that can recognize, so like you saw the burgundy card matched the burgundy color. And if I had I didn't set this up. Yep, there's yellow for 1/6. You can tell it's well loved. But we played this game with, actually, I'm wrong. This is 1/6. this is 1/4. So that might be hard for kids who are colorblind, but for the kids that are not colorblind, this is great. What did this do for my kids? They had a ball. They just love this game. They also had a wonderful recognition of the fact that fractions are dividing out to make one whole, one thing out of a variety of things. So they're just visually able to see that much easier than any of the curriculums we were using. Combine this with fraction war, which I showed you in an earlier video, and they were able to like see why 1/6 is bigger than 1/4. But in this game, you can do the same thing, right? Like I can tell that this is going to be bigger, visually bigger than that. And so figuring out what part of one out of whatever. So we use this as our introduction to fractions. We use it during our fraction units, and we use it because the kids just have a ball playing it. So other options, Sleeping Queens. This one is also going to be matching numbers to the amount of items you're trying to find, two matching cards. So like 2 6s, 2 3s, and all of them will have 3 things on the card, 6 things on the card plus the number. And so it's not on purpose, as I would call accidental learning. They're having a ball playing this game. They really love this game. A lot of our friends' kids also love this game, but it's there, it's embedded in it, and they are being exposed to 3 cats and the number 3, 6 roses and the number 6, that kind of thing. And this one actually I haven't even played very often. Like the kids just go and they play it by themselves. They just take off. And so when you can find a game that happens to have math like this that they love, they are learning all the time, and you're not even directing it, right? And if they're like, oh, I'm tired, they're like, oh, well, why don't you go play a game of Sleeping Queens? In their head, they're not going to go do math. They're going to go play a game of Sleeping Queens, but they are doing math recognition, math matching, that kind of thing. The other thing we forget about with math is that math is logic. So any of these fun one-person logic puzzle games, this particular one is super cute, counts as math preparation and math solution finding, that kind of thing. So actually last year, one of my daughters, one of her whole classes was logic, the youngest. And so we had a pile of these games, and her job was every day to pick a game from the pile, which I can go over in a future video if you want me to. Leave it in a comment that, yes, I would like to see the logic games you used and why they worked and why they didn't, which ones we would actually buy, which ones we wouldn't spend our money on again. But these logic games, really great for helping her brain solve the puzzles, especially when you get to algebra and geometry, pre-algebra, all of those fun classes. This is the kind of thing that helps them figure out this is a puzzle and that they're trying to solve. And so highly recommend, if you have a child that enjoys this kind of game, or even if you have one that doesn't. Okay, so my kid doesn't like this. All right, so my recommendation for that, and we did do that sometimes last year, I should say, we would sit down and do it together. So she would pull it out, I would set it up, or she would set it up, and then the two of us would logic it out together. Why this? And so it's directed learning, but also letting them lead with ideas of how to solve the problem and helping them get confidence in the fact that they can solve this problem. So these are some very basic games you may have around the house. Your friends may own already, besides probably fraction formula. If you're going to buy one game this year, it's not super cheap, but this investment, we have used it regularly with a variety of kids over to our house, as well as our own kids, for probably 7 years. So in that respect, we played it more than the majority of our games. But you can pick up cheap dominoes. You can make your own dominoes. That could be a fun class assignment. Just remember that math is first done in real life, then done on paper, is easier for the kids. They can run faster with math in real life than they can in the way that we put it down in the physical form. So think outside the box. Anything that has numbers, anything that has adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing as they get older, that counts as math. So that day that they're tired and they don't want to do, trade out for this. Or the day that they are struggling, say, if they like games, say, okay, we're going to finish this, but at the end we're going to get to play this. Or send them over to grandma's because it's a sick day, and you can say, okay, your math grandma, if you're helping me out. I'm not, everybody has a grandma to send their kids to on sick days. I'm well aware. Okay, you're having a sick day. You're on the couch. And they're like, I don't want to do math. And you're like, okay, your math for today is dominoes. Find a sibling and play dominoes, or play yourself and see which of yourselves wins if you only have one child. So yeah, those are some things recommended. Oh yeah, what's hiding over here is for sale. And this is more of an economic game for older kids. So I will be making a math video for older kids. So, but this is what I would start with if I was going back in time. I would probably skip Yahtzee for a while, but I would definitely do logic games, definitely do fraction formula, no matter how young they are. And then any game like Sweeping Queens, Sushi Go, and then some basic Uno, some dominoes, and you're set. Don't overthink it. Use what you already have. Save some money. Use what you already have. It's totally fine. There's no perfect math game. Really, they're all great. If the kid enjoys it, that was my big mistake. If the kid enjoys it, let them play it. Not just, if I don't enjoy it, I probably won't play it as often. But if they enjoy it, let them go. A lot of this is about them, not me. So, all right, thanks. Have a great day.